Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 with Suzie Sawicki of the Windsor Wednesday Show. Thank you for taking time to join us today and being part of the You and Proud community. We have actually three today, special guests on today's show. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists. Our first guest is Venus Olla. Venus Olla will be guiding and facilitating the learning and sharing sessions for the Stay Well, Work Well Women's Circle program with WEST of Windsor. She offers counseling to individuals and families with areas of focus being anxiety, sexual abuse, depression, self-harm, bipolar disorder, and technology addiction. As a registered psychotherapist qualifying, Venus has gained experiences that will prove beneficial as she leads the learning and sharing women's circle meetings to enable participants to gain insights and practical tools for dealing with abuse, practicing self-care, and making decisions for well-being. Olla has her doctorate in education and has been involved in the field of education for over 14 years. And as a counselor for at-risk youth, a classroom teacher, and a lecturer at the University of Windsor. Thank you so much for joining us, Venus. Our second guest is Brandon Meloche. Brandon Meloche is a first-generation student who graduated from the university in July of 2021. He started studying biochemistry, but then changed his major to political science. In his new program, he excelled in classes. He found true enjoyment in the university experience and has held numerous leadership positions in Model United Nations and the U Windsor Conservatives, and membership in several other clubs and associations on campus. His particular academic specialties while in third and fourth year were foreign policy and constitutional law. Our third guest is none other than Jasleen Dayal. Jasleen is a fourth-year political science student here at U Windsor. Serving as a UWSA president this year, she has always had a passion for leadership. 2 years ago, Jasleen started out as the UWSA board director for the FAST faculty, serving as VP Student Life and interim Women X Center coordinator last year, and then became president. Being involved in multiple clubs throughout her time at U Windsor and being part of the UWSA, Jasleen tells us it's an unmatched experience with all the opportunities it's given her. Some of the programs she's working on now are the vaccination campaigns, working alongside administration to facilitate the return to campus this year, reconstructing the entire CWSC seating area, working with politicians to educate students on federal elections, hosting UWSA Welcome Week events, and advocating for students during such crucial times. So thank you to all of our incredible guests today. I'm so excited to get started on today's conversation. And my first question is for Venus Olla. So I read your incredible bio, and I'm just wondering, now you're a registered psychotherapist or qualifying to become one and facilitating with the sessions for Stay Well, Work Well Women's Circle program. What made you want to become that and work with such a group?
Okay, thank you. And it's so nice to be here. I'm going to answer the question kind of backwards. So starting with the Stay Well, Work Well program, which is being put on by WEST of Windsor, and it was able to be done through a Safer and Stronger grant through the Canadian Women's Foundation. And the program it's a fantastic program. I couldn't not be part of it when I found out about it and heard. Basically the program has three different aspects to it, where we have the learning circles, which I'm facilitating. It's curriculum based. It's looking at various types of trauma and abuse and how it affects us when it happens. It also has 2 hours of restorative yoga as well a week. And the final piece is WEST has actually managed to provide participants with actual one-to-one supports after sessions. So I was really interested in it because it takes a holistic approach, right? It's not just one aspect in terms of education, psychoeducation. It also includes the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I think that's what makes a big difference when we're transforming our lives and healing from trauma and abuse. And the second part really is, why did I want to become a psychotherapist qualifying? You know, I've had my own personal journey, which if I didn't have a therapist and I wasn't able to access that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So that's one part of it. And the second part is a classroom teacher and a counselor in high schools. it was very, very obvious that students would come to me. I would see it. People needed supports, right? When we're talking about mental health and mental wellness. And yeah, that's why I embarked on the very long journey to become a psychotherapist.
Now, it's so crucial, especially for people of all ages, but now more than ever for young people, especially thinking about the University of Windsor. So, how can students use the programs with the Women's Circle program in West of Windsor? How can they get involved with those incredibly important programs that can help with mental health and other things like that?
Well, I mean, first of all, in terms of the Stay Well, Work Well program, all anyone would have to do is contact WEST, the website. Hopefully, you'll be able to add the website to this. It's westofwindsor.com, and you can actually look at the programs and enroll in the program. You can contact me directly if you want to. And also, in terms of general wellness, the university has the SEC as well, in order to amazing therapists. I'm actually working there now too. So I think really, I'm hoping I'm answering your question. As a young person, the first step is being able to reach out and know it's okay to reach out and know it's okay to actually ask for help. I would say that's the hardest step, because it takes courage and you need to be vulnerable. But that's how I hope I answered your question.
No, absolutely. That's so incredible that there's programs out in the community and at the university for students and all young people to take advantage of. And speaking of students, I want to move my question next for Brandon. And something I found really interesting, and you and I are friends, and I found it really cool how you started your education experience studying biochemistry, but then you changed to political science. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that and what made you want to make that switch?
Yes, of course. And if I may, just for a moment, thank you for inviting me on the show. And I'm also very grateful to share the screen, so to speak, with two very qualified and interesting people. As to your question, throughout my entire life, my base desire in doing what I want to do for a living was to help people at the very foundation. When I was 12, I decided that meant that I wanted to be a cardiac surgeon because heart issues run very prevalently in my family. So I naturally thought, hey, pick a science, start there, go to med school, right? When I was in my first year, I decided to take a minor in political science because anybody who knows me or knows that I like to study a little bit of everything. So I started taking that minor. I took a couple of classes in political science in my first year, and I decided, you know what? I really, really like this a lot better than I like my science classes. And that was nothing against the professors. I still found what they were teaching fascinating. To this day, I find what they call redox organic chemistry fascinating. However, I couldn't tell you for the life of me what it is. So I changed my major because I wanted to study something a little more flexible that would enable me to study a little bit of everything, like I said. So I was able to take classes in political science and law and history and all these things. And because of this, it enabled me to develop a lot of interesting career connections with local politicians and, like I was saying earlier, before we went on, a federal political party. And it gave me a sort of interest in a number of very specific areas, including areas of finance, public finance, constitutional policy, foreign issues. But I will tell you, it was quite a transition. It really was.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think it's a topic a lot of students maybe shy away from, but you have to make a life decision so young to pick a certain field that you want to stick with for the rest of your life. What advice would you tell to somebody who's maybe thinking of switching and wanting to make that move, but are maybe a little bit nervous about maybe the repercussions or just issues that may come up with that? So I'm just wondering, what was that kind of shift in moment for you that made you want to switch overall?
Okay, so the shift itself was when I was taking a comparative politics class, just learning about the differences in other political systems, other political cultures, even. it just was fascinating in a degree that I'd never considered before. I always knew things about politics, but truthfully, I didn't really care up until then. And the way that one of my professors, Dr. Maltseva, who a couple of you probably know, it sort of gave me a new appreciation for what comparative politics is, and this sort of was the first way to sort of light that candle. Regarding what I would advise students who are unsure about what it is they want to study, I would say it boils down to two things. The first is that if you're unsure of what you want to study in like going into your first year, then what you could do is either, and this is not a very popular thing to say, but you could either postpone your education for like a semester or a full year to see like what it is that your skills are, what it is your interests are, explore that a little more. Or you could do, I believe they still have this. When I started, it was called an undeclared major. I don't know if they still have that. A few of my friends from high school did it. But you could take a little bit of everything in your first year and then decide after, say, a semester or two, what it is that you want to study. There's a really awful stigma around you must complete your degree in 3 or 4 years, which I cannot stand myself, because it technically took me longer. It took me 4.5 years. I had to take a couple of classes in the summers. That's pretty much what I would say. I understand it's a fragile issue, but things like this can be handled very practically, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And just talking about that stigma overall, it's okay to change your major, and it's okay to have the journey take a little bit longer than for most people. And speaking about academics, I just want to let our viewers know, if we have any students on today is the academic ad drop date. So it's the last day for late registration and change course for the fall 2021 courses. And it's also the last day for deferral requests to a future term. So just wanted to let our viewers know that for anyone who's a student and thinking of adding or dropping a course. And moving on for another student question here, we have our incredible UWSA president, Jasleen. Jasleen, I just want to know, looking back as you enter your final year at the University of Windsor, did you ever anticipate becoming the president of the UWSA?
Right. So the short answer is no, I never anticipated becoming president of the UWSA. And the reason I say that is because when I was in high school, I was a very soft-spoken and relatively quiet person. I never had the chance to take on such a leadership role like UWSA president, not only in high school, but in grade school. Like it's been something I've never done before. And for example, in my graduating class in high school, there was actually only a few people that ended up going into political science, the same program as me from my high school. And so I think, if anything, that was inspiring to me to be able to go and actively seek out leadership opportunities here at U Windsor, to be able to kind of build my leadership skills and really help support my peers. And so as a result, I got involved in multiple clubs at U Windsor. And from there, I also got involved at the UWSA, as you mentioned, as a board director. And from there, I worked my way up to VP Student Life last year. It was an amazing experience being able to stand in a VP role here at the UWSA and take on such leadership opportunities. And from there, I became president because I really got inspired seeing my colleagues on campus who were actively seeking out leadership opportunities and were looking for ways to get involved. And I think that's honestly an amazing part about U Windsor, is the fact that it's a place that really does facilitate and encourage leadership among students. And it's honestly amazing to see my colleagues getting involved in multiple initiatives here on campus, whether that be on campus, off campus. There's just so many opportunities here at U Windsor. So. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And just so our viewers, if they're wondering, how does the process of getting involved with UWSA look? Is there a voting process? Can you just kind of join and not do any voting? Like, how does that work?
Right. Yeah. So that's an amazing question. So for students who are looking to get involved in the more so governance aspect of the UWSA, we host elections twice during a year. So we host our general election, usually in May, and then we host a by-election, usually in October. So I guess keep an eye out. That's probably going to be coming up soon, in which we're going to have multiple board director positions and actually a vice president position open here at the UWSA. There's also ways to get involved as a volunteer for some of our service centers, like the WEST Food Pantry Service, Women's Center, Campus Pride, and so many more. And then there's also a way to become go from a volunteer of a service center to possibly becoming a coordinator. That doesn't involve an election or getting elected. It's purely based off of how much how much skill you're able to bring, and how much of a leader you are here at campus. So yeah,
that's incredible. And so just if anybody's interested in getting involved, I'm sure you can contact Jasleen. I think you guys also have a website as well, or a Facebook page. So there's definitely a lot of different opportunities to get involved. And speaking kind of about improving your career and maybe some highlights, going back to Venus, you have over 14 years of experience in the field of education. What have been some of those highlights of your career?
There've been quite a few. There've been quite a few. So I had to just pick, thinking of the main ones really. I think the first is I emigrated from England here, so I'm a very proud immigrant. And I was really lucky enough to become the CYF counselor, which is a specialized program for racialized and marginalized youth that the Greater Essex County District School Board has run for many years, actually. And that was a highlight because, and it's interesting to listen to Brandon and Jasleen as they're embarking on their careers, because a lot of the things they obviously are saying is so true. That literally spearheaded my passion for education and the minds of young people. So that's a huge highlight for me. The second one I would say is becoming an actual teacher. So I have an engineering degree and my master's in molecular biology, complete different areas, and a PhD in education. I actually went back to the University of Windsor to complete my Bachelor of Education, to become a classroom teacher. That was a huge highlight because I taught science and chemistry, and it was wonderful to get young people to understand that science is everywhere, and it changes lives, right? It's just to be curious about science and understand how it relates to the everyday. So that was a wonderful highlight. And then the final one really was last year, I'm a co-founder of the Black Staff Equity Alliance with three amazing women who are my friends and colleagues, Natalie Brandon Morgan, Chantal Brandon Morgan, and Amina Abdul. And we have been doing a lot of training throughout the year on anti-Black racism. So I would say, and anti-racism, I'd say those are my main three highlights, just so I don't take up all the time.
No, that's incredible. And I wasn't sure what your undergraduate was, but talking about your experience in education, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who maybe wants to pursue that path in their life?
To become an actual classroom teacher, because education is very broad, right? We can be educators in so many ways. Brandon and Jasleen are showing that right now. You're showing that, yeah. So I'm assuming you're talking about like as a classroom teacher.
Right, yeah. So getting your Bachelor of Education from the University of Windsor. Yeah, becoming a classroom teacher.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, you need to know that you want to do it. I would say, it's a balance of the subject area that you want to teach. It's important to have a passion in that area if you want to educate young people. Obviously, you need to get your Bachelor of Education. But as you're doing that, it's important to gain experience of volunteer experiences with young people, right? Mm-hmm. Volunteering in the community with the different programs that are out there. Going into the school, it's about immersing yourself in the experience of being an educator and connecting with young people, because you do have this the idea of, okay, the specialty of the subject, but teaching's a lot more than that, right? We all remember those teachers that made us feel, engaged, motivated, and wanting to be our best selves. So I would say, immersing yourself in that kind of experience and going out and volunteering and connecting, it's networking, it's talking to people who've been in the field. Yeah, it's all of the above. It's all of the above.
Yeah.
But and also patience, perseverance, because you might not get in the first time, but it doesn't mean that that's not meant. Not meant to, go down that path. If I told you I was in my mid-30s when I went down that path, so it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. And I'm really thankful that you're able to share your experience and some of those highlights for our viewers. And speaking of patience, I think the last 2 years have shown, especially for students, how much patience is needed to finishing anything, a degree online. And Brandon, you've done that yourself, finishing your degree during an unprecedented time. What were some of those challenges, or looking like I was asking Venus, some of those highlights transitioning out of university? What can you maybe give or as a piece of advice to some maybe fourth year students who are also finishing their last year online?
Well, you're right in saying that there were a lot of challenges. There were indeed some highlights, but I can't ignore the fact that it was challenging. My last year and a half, technically, of university was quite hard for me. You know this specifically, Susie. I hate technology. I really, really, really dislike it. If somebody ever asks me, Brandon, what do you think the number one problem with society is? Too much use of the internet. That's the answer I always use. It wasn't just technical difficulty that made my last year quite difficult. It was the disconnect between opening up my computer and trying to learn something. There really isn't a conducive way that you can, for lack of a better term, teach a boring lecture over the internet and expect people to learn from it. Now, some professors and some educators, thankfully, are quite good at teaching online, and this really helped me. I lucked out this way. I was able to retain the GPA I had achieved before in my third and fourth year, thankfully, due to a lot of hard work and a lot of very excellent professors for whom I'm very grateful for having worked with. But in regarding specific advice I could give to students, because cards on the table, it was situational, what we had experienced. And perhaps this wouldn't be exactly applicable to all situations, but I would say that the number one thing I would advise is organization. Get as organized as possible. So what I did is I went on my computer and I typed up a little calendar for the week, like Monday through Friday, and I blocked out certain sections of the day for my classes, and for when I had to do reading for my classes and when I had to do writing for my classes, and I used different colors for that, just so I'd know. Okay, so on Monday I have 7 hours of work, and then on Tuesday I have 6 hours of work, or something like this. And I also made a list of when all my assignments were due. So that helped tremendously as well. I would also say if you're a to-do list person, I respect you, but I would advise against it if you're going for a completely online year or semester, because it will stress you out so much, because that to-do list will be long. So I would advise against that.
No, that's some really great advice, and I think that our viewers are going to appreciate that. It is a challenging time, and but you have to always remember that there are other people also in the same position as you, and we're all getting through it together. But it's also important to note that we have some incredible Windsor initiatives going on right now, and I'm going to go back to Jasleen for my final question. I just want to know, Jasleen, what projects are you looking forward to the UWSA implementing this year for the Windsor community?
Right. Yeah. So thanks for the question. Overall, we do recognize that this has been a very challenging year, given the circumstances of the pandemic for our students. And so a lot of our focus this year is going to be thinking about how we can better support our students and uplifting them in whatever way, shape, or form we can. So we're looking forward to multiple projects within the Windsor community this year in a variety of different categories, including advocacy, finance, student life improvement, and so much more. In terms of advocacy, we look back on the recent elections, and one thing we tried to focus on was educating our students and working with our local MPs to be able to advocate student concerns to them, and see what can be done to improve student issues here on campus. And we'll also be working with city councilors and other different, other different important people within the community to be able to see how we can better uplift students. We're also looking towards reshaping our Office of Student Empowerment, which will be coming up very soon, to figure out ways in which we can better advocate for our students who might be going through very difficult situations. We're also working on creating more student jobs here at the UWSA and student opportunities such as volunteering opportunities and coordinator opportunities to create much more of a great experience for our students here at UWindsor. We're looking to get involved. Our student life department, for example, is focusing on how we can host events that will be able to be conducted safely while also bring back student life to our campus, because we do recognize that there are some students who are in their second year of university who haven't had a chance to necessarily step on campus yet. And so we're trying to figure out ways how we can make them feel a little bit more involved in the UWindsor community and bring back kind of that, sense of Lancer pride here at UWindsor. And then there are some other things going on in the background, such as logistical improvements to the UWSA in our governance documents and governance structures to be able to work as a very efficient student union. So overall, there's some amazing things planned for the UWSA this year, and I'm really looking forward to working alongside my amazing team. Shout out to them in improving the student experience and the way the UWSA operates this year.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward even to hopefully participating in some of those events. And I just want to thank all of you for being on here today. 3 exceptional UN proud community members. And I can't thank you enough. I want to thank everyone for viewing today and for taking time for being on today's show. I just want to say, as always, you can find these full-length episodes on Facebook and YouTube. And if you enjoyed today's show and are interested in maybe being a guest like Jasleen, Venus, or Brandon, you can email myself or studentexperience@uwindsor.ca. Again, I want to thank our wonderful guests for being on today's show, and we'll see you all right here next week on the Windsor Wednesday Show. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, our guests again. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.